Welcome to this week's GV Bounce. I'm Marc McGowan.
I'm Matt Galea.
And we're going to take you through the senior Golden Valley Football League preliminary final. Now, the Shepparton Swans and Shepparton United. So, an all Shepparton preliminary final is going to be a crackerjack game, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be really, really good. Swans have been fantastic for the last month now, and I watched them last week against Benalla, and Warby probably admitted it wasn't their best game, but
I heard it was a bit scrappy. A few people told me, I wasn't at the game myself, obviously, as you said, you were there, but with the skills not up to the usual standard, or was it just the pressure? What do you think it was?
Just lots of pressure, and probably wasn't the most free-flowing game. It was at times, like we just go from end to end, and then... but I think the Swans just, I think in that final quarter when their midfield got on top, they were just really hard to stop, and I think that's what United will have to do on Saturdays, just make sure that...
On Sunday, don't get that one wrong. We don't want you turning up on Saturday, guys.
On Sunday, sorry, all season has been Saturday. So, I think United will have to stop that Swans midfield.
Which is going to be tough, because you mentioned the midfield. Last week, United were crushed in that area. Kai Abram, and the centre clearances in particular, at quarter time it was 8-1, and it didn't get any better from there. So the Swans have an amazing midfield, so much depth in there. Jesse Finnan, runner-up in the Morrison medal. Jamison Daniels, Quade Johnston, Tyson Sidebottom, Paul Fry, the list goes on. Whereas United probably doesn't have that sort of depth. They do have some quality at the top, the Matt DeBellas, the Sean Hoys, these sort of guys, but probably not the depth of talent. So that'll be a key focus in this game. And obviously we all know about the Swans as two gun defenders, Dan Ruddock and Andrew Reardon. But
it'll be interesting to see how they go against the likes of Eagle and Forrest, and real interesting contest there. Yeah,
it certainly will be. Like Dan Lovick last time matched up on Tim Luby down there, and the two of them went head to head, and they obviously stars for both of their sides, and they probably quelled each other's influence a bit, so they didn't have the usual impact. But I suppose that's almost a win for both sides because you take out playmakers at each end. But Andrew Reardon will probably go to Jason Eagle. Not sure what's going to happen with Matty Forrest and who's going to go to him, because he's actually kicked 10 goals against them in 2 games this year. So they're going to have a plan for him. Kyle Tapscott might be an option. Even Michael Tinkler is a wild card. He could hurt them the other way, and he's probably tall. He's probably not quite tall enough, but he is still fairly tall. So there's a few different options, but obviously Warby won't be disclosing that information before the game. But look, I think it's going to be a really good game, but you just don't know. I've gone with United for my tip, but it's more of a gut feel. They'd certainly have to play a hell of a lot better than last week. They were really disappointing. Kai Abram's a sensational side. We all know that. They've only lost 1 game in the last sort of, I don't know what it is now, 19 games or something like that. So look, that was always going to be a tough game, but United's going to have to play a hell of a lot better, and even if they win that one, they're going to have to beat Kyabram if they win the premiership. So they're going to have to find that improvement in the midfield, which isn't beyond them, but it is going to be tough. But what do you think of the keys to this game, man?
I just think Swans' run through the middle will be vital, and how United go about stopping that. We've already sort of touched on Eagle, and I think that there's always a danger with United that if you've just focused too much on him, the likes of Luby and Forrest can hurt you, as Forrest has, like you say, he's kicked 10 goals against them already this season. So, they're probably the key points. I've gone with the Swans. I just think their momentum is really good at the moment.
It's a fair point.
Like you say, United went at their best last week, and Swans weren't either, but they just have this knack of just getting the result at the moment, and I think we'll see that on Sunday. Yeah,
and the Swans obviously won the last game by 3 points, and that was at Princess Park. Has been a little bit of talk about it, the game being at Deakin Reserve this week. That might actually be an advantage for United. Obviously plays there every second week. It's their home ground, so look, that could be a factor as well. The Swans, we talked about the United's forwards. The Swans have got a couple of great guys up there as well. Brodie Avard, Daniel Campbell. They're both, they'll kick bags of goals, and sometimes on the same day, other times they've swapped and changed. But look, Brodie Avard is an absolute powerhouse up there. And Daniel Campbell, he probably doesn't look like an athletic gun footballer, but tell you what, he knows how to kick a goal, and that's all that really matters. The looks wise, it's not a big deal. But look, it's going to be an intriguing game. But I mean, look, we're focused on the preliminary so far in this discussion today. But it's been a massive week. We obviously had the Morrison medal. We talked about Jesse Finnan finishing runner up a bit earlier. But what about Luke Morgan? Wins by 19 votes and racks up 35. Extraordinary numbers.
Superb season, obviously. I mean, I hope he's not superstitious, because every time I've watched him this year, they've actually lost. So, but I mean, his personal season has been outstanding. The club season has been outstanding, and I mean, he was heartbroken after the loss last week. And I mean, fair enough too. No one likes to lose these sort of games, but outstanding season from him. But the margin did surprise me.
Yeah, it sort of raised a few eyebrows across the league, actually. It's probably really not a gap of 19 votes between Luke Morgan and the rest. And there were a few players on it. I think Paul Newman got 5 votes for the whole year. I mean, it's a bit strange. You don't know what the umpires look for at times, but look, it's one of those
It
awards.
does seems to be a midfielder's award, though.
Oh, it certainly is. It certainly is. There's no doubt about that. But look, you'd like to see someone like a Paul New when he kicks. I know he got 3 votes for kicking 10 goals against United, and then 2 votes for the other sort of 17 rounds. I mean, it's still surprising me a little bit. And there were guys like Brady Green, only got 6 votes. Brendan Hollow, he was actually my tip to win it, and I only got 10 votes, which it's not a really small amount, but I would have thought he's had a better year than that. So. And then the other news this week, so there's been a couple of really big coaching announcements. Coaching changes, and Brad Campbell's come on board at Shepparton, the former Marubna mentor. He was with the Bushies this year, working as a midfield coach there, assistant coach, and look, I think he's a great appointment. It could be a really big turning point for Shepparton. They've obviously had some rough times lately. Two winless campaigns in the last 4 years. So, look, they desperately need something to change. And Brad Campbell, I think, is going to deliver that. He's had a massive amount of success at Marubna. He made the finals in all of his 5 years coaching there. Coached them to the 2011 grand final, which they were bitterly unlucky not to win that day against Shepparton United. So, could easily be a premiership coach. But look, Shepparton can't expect miracles next year, I don't think. But they've got enough talent with the under-18s. They could get a few guys back, and then sort of add a few, whether it's down in Melbourne or some star country footballers, and it could happen in a hurry. We've seen it with Benalla.
I think his experience with the Bushies too, working with those talented young players, I think that might help him as well. Obviously, he's got a lot of good contacts. If he can bring some talented recruits in, and like I said, well, we've seen with Benalla, we've seen with Swans, it can change very quickly. Yeah, and we've touched on Brad Campbell and obviously Scott Grigg at Tatura. It's been a bit of a tumultuous year. Well, not so much a tumultuous year, but possibly the second half of the year. For them, they obviously had a couple of was assistant and the director of coaching sort of resign mid-year, or a parting of the ways, depending on how you want to look at it. They probably thought they had to go as well from the Tatura officials' point of view, but that was a bit of a disruption. Then they lost 5 of their last 7 after winning 11 of their first 12. But look, Scotty Grigg, he's made the decision to leave. It wasn't necessarily because of that. He's taking up an opportunity in the Northern Territory with development with Indigenous kids, which is something he said. I spoke to him yesterday, and he was saying it's something he's always been passionate about. He's worked up there before, and he did struggle to get full-time employment here. So, I mean, we talked about some of the range of jobs he's had. I mean, the poor bugger, he's been mowing lawns, working in news agencies, wineries. He had to do 4 or 5 different jobs. I mean, that's obviously not ideal, because in the end, footy is a passion. We have to make money. So, look, in the end, his priority is full-time employment, and that's hopefully what he's going to get up in the Northern Territory. So, look, exciting for him. Probably a bit of a disappointing year for Tatura at the end, defending their premiership and out in the first week of finals. So, look, it's we'll see what happens. But what did you make of it? Oh, look, obviously, I haven't watched Tatura as much as you have this year, so I'm not quite over the sort of impact he's had over the season. Obviously, there's been a few rocky moments throughout the second half of the year in particular, but I suppose, I'll just wish him all the best, and good luck for the future. No,
exactly the same. I agree with that. I mean, he's a really nice guy. He's a different sort of guy, and he probably didn't have the unity that he wanted. He did mention that today in the paper, but I always found him an absolute pleasure to deal with, so I really hope everything goes well with next year and beyond for him. But the other big story of the week on the back page today, Shepparton United midfielder Joey Perkovic. He looks like he's potentially in trouble again. Look, there's always 2 sides to the story. But the investigation will discover that. But look, he's basically the investigation that Kai Abrams requested from last week's semi-final is involving a verbal altercation between himself and ex-AFL player Sam Sheldon. So look, we've sort of heard a few things of what was said. Again, you don't want to jump to conclusions, but the whispers we're hearing about what was said out there is pretty disappointing. So, but we'll see. That we'll let it unfold, and it'll probably go to the tribunal, and we'll let the tribunal decide from there. But as we all know, if he gets 2 weeks suspension, that's it for Joey. He's had a pretty ordinary rap sheet, in even just this year. But going back, he's racked up 14 matches already, so he's in a bit of strife. But look, we'll have to wait and see. But it's unlikely it's going to affect him this season. They'd have to get everything wrapped up and the investigation completed by Monday and sent to the league office. So for there to be a tribunal case before potentially next Sunday's or 2 Sundays games, so grand final. So look, it's probably not going to affect this year, but his career could be done. But we'll see. Does
it make it more interesting if United make the final?
Oh, look, it certainly does. But look, generally the investigations go for 3 weeks, and look, basically it's only started this week, and everything would have to be done by Monday. So they'd really have to rush it in, and the only reason they'd be doing that is because of the Joey situation, I think. So look, I don't think it's going to stop him playing the grand final. I can't see it realistically being wrapped up that quickly. So you just never know. You never know what goes on behind the scenes. They might wrap it up. Might be a simple open and shut case, and they
Yeah.
they get everything done. But we'll certainly keep tabs on that one. It's always interesting when Joe Perkovic is involved. But look, we'll leave it there. That probably wraps up a pretty massive week of GV footy. 1 week away from the grand final to get through the preliminary first. It's going to be a great game of footy, and we hope you head out and have a look.